Okay. I think we are up and running now. How's it going? We're a little bit early. We're going to give it maybe a few minutes, let some people trickle in, and then we will get started on talking about some of the new rebates that have come into play for new builds. Getting a lot of questions about it, a lot of confusion. So hopefully this kind of clears it up for everybody. And we can move forward from there. So we'll give it a few minutes and then we will get things started. Okay, we're seeing some people trickle in. We're just going to give everyone a few more minutes just to come and join. If you guys have any questions right now that you know of already, feel free to put it in the Q&A and we'll answer it at the end of the webinar if it's not already answered during this presentation. Finally getting some good weather in this city. I thought summer was never going to start.
Oh, it's incredible, right? We've got a bunch of people coming in now. So, I mean, we should be good to go.
Yeah.
Seems
okay.
like. We'll give it a minute, maybe 30 seconds, or we can start right now.
Sure. Let's get it started. And then we will be on our way so everyone can enjoy the long weekend. So, purpose of this webinar, thank you everybody for joining. We're going to be talking about the new housing rebates and incentives that have come into play the last couple months. We're going to talk a little bit about the existing one and then how the new ones come into play. And then we have the wonderful Evan Shapiro to give a little bit of a legal perspective to it. We've been getting a lot of questions over the last few weeks from people misunderstanding them, how they work. So hopefully this will clear things up, make things a little bit more straightforward. Just going quickly through the agenda, we're going to talk about the new GST HST rebate, which is for first-time home buyers. Then we will talk about the additional proposed HST rebate for new homes. And then lastly, another additional proposed 50% cut to the DCs. And through this, we'll talk about eligibility and this, and that. Of course, if you guys don't know, we're the Zadigan Group. We're a team here in Toronto. We work heavily in new build and assignments and, of course, traditional real estate as well. And Evan is our go-to guy for anything real estate. Some of you guys may have worked with him in the past if you've transacted with us before. So starting off with the first-time home buyer GST HST rebate. So what is it? Essentially, it's going to cover some or all of the federal portion, so 5% of HST on newly built or substantially renovated homes. This is in addition to some of the existing provincial rebates. And at this time, this is only at a federal level. Ontario has not approved any kind of a similar rebate. How does it work? This outlines it here. So up to $1 million purchase price, you're eligible for the full rebate of the GST, federal portion of it, which is up to $50,000. Between $1 million to $1.5 million price point, we see it starts to scale down. So you'll be eligible for partial rebate. The higher the price point gets, the lower that partial rebate will be. And then lastly, once you're at a 1.5, that's where it caps out, where the rebate is essentially zero. And reminder, this is only for first-time home buyers. So here's an example here, just to give you an idea. Let's say you purchased a new home for 1.25 million. Okay. The new home is valued at 1.25. This is the midpoint between that 1 million and 1.5 that we just went over. So you would be eligible for 50% of the maximum rebate of 50,000. Quick math there comes out to $25,000 rebate once all the other conditions are met. And Evan, maybe I'll hand it off to you just to talk a little bit of the specific requirements for this rebate.
By the way, if anybody has any questions, feel free to put it into the chat, and we'll get to it at the end of the webinar here.
Thank you, Jonathan. For those who don't know me, my name's Evan Shapiro. I'm a real estate lawyer from Shapiro LLP. So back to the presentation, some of the requirements in order to be eligible for the first-time home buyer HST rebate. First off, property has to be newly built or substantially renovated. HST is only an issue when it comes to new builds. It's applicable on resale. There is an exemption, so we're not worried about HST in that space. It's really just an HST issue on new builds. For individuals, requirements for an individual to qualify: you must be 18 years or older. You must be a citizen or a resident of Canada. You must be a first-time home buyer, which I'm going to discuss the test for that in a moment. As well, if you are married or have a common law partner, they must have not claimed this rebate in the past. This rebate is for your use of the property as a primary residence. It does not apply if you're going to rent it. And finally, you must meet these eligibility requirements as of the closing date, once you take ownership. So to give you an example, an individual here named Adam, he bought a place. He sold it in June 2021. He's since been renting for a number of years. Based on these facts, even though Adam once owned a home, since it's been sold and he's been renting for a number of years, Adam may nevertheless still qualify as a first-time buyer. And what this example is showing on the next slide is the 4-year rule. So the definition of a first-time home buyer: you or your spouse or common law partner cannot have owned a home in the current calendar year or the past 4 calendar years. So it does present an avenue, if you've owned a home, to requalify as a first-time home buyer, which is great. There are other tests for first-time home buyers for other programs, taxes, and real estate closings. For example, land transfer tax, which is a different tax from HST. There's a separate test for what a first-time home buyer is, and in that case, it means you've never owned a home anywhere in the world at any point. You cannot requalify here. You can requalify, which is a huge benefit to people looking to buy homes. Timing requirements, and this is maybe the most key of the eligibility requirements for the rebate. It's for a limited period of time. Your agreement must have been signed between last March 20th, 2025 and before the end of 2031. Construction has to begin before 2031. And for this purpose, construction does not mean we have an intent to develop or we have plans ready to go. Excavation has to have begun. That's what's defined as construction in this case. The property must be substantially completed before 2036, and ownership must transfer by that time. A common question that I get is, Evan, I bought a home in 2021, pre-construction. I signed then. Can I qualify for this? And unfortunately, the answer is no. If your agreement is signed prior to March 20th, 2025, you would not qualify. The last thing I'm going to mention for the first-time homebuyer rebate is how to apply. So 2 avenues. You can apply directly to CRA, in which case you have 2 years. Or there's an option for you to cooperate with the builder and to jointly apply for the rebate on closing. And that really comes down to whether or not the rebate is going to be assigned to the builder or not. And maybe I'll just say a word on that as well. with pre-construction deals, historically, they've always been on the basis that HST is included in the purchase price. So the price you see is all in. However, the buyer assigns that rebate to the builder. And when I say that rebate, I mean the historical rebate, the HST new housing rebate of $24,000. And that's how historically pre-construction deals in HST have worked. What we're seeing in practice now that this new rebate has been rolled out over the last month or so, builders are updating their forms to say, you assign that rebate to us and we give you a credit on closing. So the net effect is the buyer gets the benefit of the rebate, they get it up front, and cash flow wise, they don't have to put up the money and get it back later, which is fantastic. I think the key here is how will the builder deal with the rebate, and every builder, every contract is different.
Yeah, that's a big thing. To Evan's point, there is every pre-construction we look at, every pre-construction project, all the terms in the agreement that you're signing. Every project is different. Every builder is dealing with it differently. So make sure you're reading through those terms so you understand whether you have to apply to CRA directly or it's kind of baked into it's baked into the price there. Sorry, my screen just closed. Can you guys see me? You guys can? Cool. So on to the relationship with the existing HST new housing rebate. The first-time home buyer rebate can be claimed in addition to the existing HST new housing rebate, which we'll kind of go into an example here. So if Adam enters into an agreement to buy a newly built home for $600,000 on or after March 20th of 2025, which is that first-time home buyer rebate is kind of when it started, and the property closes in February of 2026, the federal portion of the HST, which is the 5% GST on the purchase price, is $30,000. If Adam qualifies for the first-time home buyer's GST HST rebate, he may recover the full $30,000 as the purchase price is below $1 million. In addition, he also might be eligible for the Ontario New Housing Rebate, the provincial portion of the HST, which is capped at $24,000, which we kind of all know already. Given pre-construction, this has been in effect for a while. He would receive the maximum provincial rebate. So in total, the purchaser, Adam, who would have purchased the $600,000 home, could receive up to $54,000 in combined rebates. Now, us as the Zadigan Group in general, what we kind of go after right now, the reason why we're looking at pre-construction again, which we'll talk about a little bit later, is because with these rebates in place, pre-con is making sense again for first-time homebuyers and as well for just anybody looking for an end-user type property or an investment. So in terms of the question, so will builders claim the rebate? There's kind of some confusion, amongst this within the community. We'll kind of go into here, and I'll let Daniel take over from here.
Yeah, just to talk about will builders claim it. Evan, maybe you can chime on since you're seeing what's actually happening there.
Yeah, thanks, guys. So I'm seeing a few scenarios play out with builders. First thing I want to say is this is a brand new rebate that only, even though it was announced a year ago, the paperwork approval only came out about a month and a half ago. And what we're seeing in the industry is everyone's dealing with it differently. Where there was a standard approach to pre-construction contracts previously in the industry, like I mentioned, dealing with the old rebate, the new housing rebate of $24,000, where there was a industry standard of how builders dealt with that issue. It's a little bit different here because it's brand new. And we've seen a few different approaches. One, I've seen builders say, we're not going to deal with it. The do nothing approach, where they're not actually confirming the buyer gets it, which is, for me as a buyer lawyer, concerning. I want to see the benefit flow to the buyer. Option number two, I'm seeing an amendment get prepared where builder says the purchase price does not include the HST new housing rebate and confirming the buyer can get the credit of it. And in that case, like I mentioned before, builders are actually agreeing to cooperate with buyers and the CRA on the rebate application. And how that would work, the amendment would state, if the buyer qualifies for the rebate, if it's assignable and you can transfer the rebate to the builder, then the builder will give you a credit for the amount of the rebate on closing. The net effect is, cash flow wise, you get the benefit of the rebate on closing, builder will collect it from the government after closing. That's the most advantageous scenario for a buyer, right? You don't have to put up the money and you get the rebate up front. A third approach we're seeing, which kind of flips the traditional approach to rebates on its head, is builder says, instead of the price being inclusive of HST, we're going to make it in addition. So this is a very different approach where builder says HST is now on top of the price. And then who's entitled to the rebates? The old rebate, $24,000, this new rebate, $50,000. Builder says, if you qualify, you get the benefit of it. We'll do an assignment and credit on closing. You'll get the cash flow benefit on closing. But from a contract standpoint, we're actually saying HST is in addition to the price. Bottom line, I think when you're approaching the contract and you're speaking to a sales representative, you want to clarify, how is the rebate factored into the price, and will I get the benefit of it?
Good stuff. So that's kind of on that. Now, that one is full in effect. It's ready to go. Now, there's a couple other ones that have also been proposed that are right now going through the process of final approval. This one is an additional HST rebate for new homes. High level, this is the federal and provincial government announced a full HST rebate for new homes up to $1 million, with a maximum rebate of $130,000. Homes priced between $1 million and $1.85 will receive a flat or declining tax reduction, similar to what we saw in the GST one. First-time home buyers may also qualify for separate provincial and federal rebates starting March 2025. So this one is the big one that you guys may have heard about, of $130,000. And I think we get into it who is eligible. Evan, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe this is not only for first-time home buyers. Anybody can qualify for this as well, correct?
That's correct. In a couple of slides, we'll talk about that. But whether it's your primary residence or whether you're renting it out as an investor, you're eligible for a rebate.
Perfect. So just to kind of show you guys an example of what that would look depending on a price point. So up to $1 million for this one, full 13% deducted. Between $1 million and 1.5 would be $130K. Anything over 1.5 has a declining sliding scale from 130 down to 24,000. And then anything over that cap of 1.85 is just a flat 24K. And Evan, I'll let you take away this part of it.
Sure. So as we said a moment ago, there's two proposed rebates, one if it's your primary residence, one if it's a rental property. And the way the government has announced the enhanced rebate, they refer to it as, it's an enhancement on the existing rebates that are available. There's a new housing rebate for primary residence, and there's an existing rental rebate if you're renting it out. And what they're really saying is for 1 year, so there's a limited time period, but for 1 year, from April 1st, 2026 to next March 31st, 2027, for 1 year, if you sign a purchase agreement during that period of time, you're eligible for this enhanced rebate. What was a rebate of $24,000 is now up to a maximum of $130,000. In terms of the eligibility requirements, on the first scenario for your primary residence, construction has to start before the end of 2031 and be completed before the end of 2031. On the rental side, in scenario number 2, construction has to have already started. So the deadline was March 31st, 2026, and construction has to be completed as well by 2029. So you may be wondering, why did the government put in these time periods? And without trying to read their minds, it's obviously meant to help stimulate the market for buyers to come back and to give some incentives. It's to help builders get rid of existing inventory. And as well, it's to help try to promote construction in the industry. So hopefully there'll be some new developments. Obviously, you can see from the residential side, maybe that wasn't the goal because construction has to have already started. So it doesn't really help any new rental projects or builders selling to investors for that segment. But certainly for primary end users, all the way up till 2031, they have to complete. So some time there and the different goals from a government perspective. I know Daniel mentioned it at the outset, but from a legal perspective, I really want to emphasize one of the number one calls I get is, Evan, I heard about this rebate. That's great. So it's valid, it's law. It's not yet law. Okay. About a month and a half ago, there was an announcement, and they, the two levels of government, federal, provincial, announced that this is what is going to occur, but it has not yet passed. It is not yet law. This is all the information we know about it at this time. We're still going to need to know what the final rules are and eligibility requirements are, and as well, the forms that are going to come out. Can we cooperate with builders to assign the rebate to them? So there's a lot to be still determined, but this is a great announcement. It's absolutely something to be excited about, and it certainly is making pre-construction homes more affordable.
Mm-hmm. So that's on that. Now, the next one that has also been proposed at the same time that the federal government came out with the one we just talked about is an additional proposed 50% cut to municipal development charges. If you guys know pre-construction, if you've purchased before in the past, then you're aware as part of your closing costs, there is this development charges, which is something that, depending where you're buying, Toronto, for example, can get quite high. So this was one that we were really excited to hear about being proposed. Some key highlights about it. Obviously, it's for cost reduction, targets up to 50% of reduction in development charges to make housing more affordable and speed up the construction. How the funding structure is going to be working. So they're going to be putting forward about $8.8 billion, which will be provided over 10 years for housing enabling infrastructure, covering a substantial portion of the reduction costs for municipalities. This one is going to be in place for 3 years. And based on what has been announced, it's going to have an impact of about $200K. Evan, I don't think we have a slide here for this one, but I don't know if you know any other information. I know this one is not approved yet also.
I know as much as you, Daniel, just
There
reading the newspaper. There was a great announcement, fanfare, and it is exciting stuff. And I hope it comes to fruition. But since the announcement, I don't think there's been any other updates.
Yeah.
Stay tuned on that one.
Yeah, I know the industry is really, really excited for this one specifically. If you guys don't know, Toronto and GTA, we have by far the highest development charges out of any metro city in the world, which is one of the reasons that it's so expensive to build here. So this is one that us personally were really excited about and eagerly waiting for it to pass. And then lastly, getting into the existing programs for first-time home buyers. These have already been around. You guys probably know about them already. The FHSA, which they came out with not too long ago, so that's up to 40,000. RSP up to 60,000, and then the existing land transfer tax rebates, both for Ontario and if you're buying in Toronto. So that's about everything. We will open up the floor a little bit here to talk about some questions. I'm seeing some here in the chat.
I can pull some of these in here.
I don't remember how to put it on the screen.
Voices. Okay, see. Okay, so this is a pretty cool question. How about if I'm constructing my own home? Evan, maybe you want to chime in on this?
Sure. So we've been focusing on a scenario where you're buying from a builder, but HST does apply when you're constructing your own home. Any newly built, substantially renovated property would attract HST, and you would be eligible for this rebate as well.
Got it.
Cool. And another question here is, if we buy an assignment condo that is about to complete, would that qualify? That's a good question, Harish. We wish. That would be incredible, wouldn't it?
It unfortunately wouldn't. Why? Because if you go back to these slides here, a lot of these are based on the date the contract was signed with the builder, which for the GST one, for example, is last March, and the new proposed HST one would have been 2026. Assignments are usually signed maybe 3, 4, 5 years in the past.
Just to add, and you're right, Daniel, it's based on the original contract date. So if that contract subsequently becomes assigned to a third party, it's really irrelevant. It's based on that original contract.
Mm-hmm.
Which most assignments that you're probably buying right now are probably purchased in 2020, 21, 22. So most likely, most of them are non-applicable. Another question here is the newly built condo that is being lived already for 1 year, but not yet closed, transfer of ownership is not yet done, applicable to this HST rebate? For context, the property and agreement was signed in 2017 by us, but assignment to our daughter was done in February of 25.
Yeah, so that would follow the similar kind of question we just had. In that case, the original date, even if you did assign it maybe recently, the original contract date with the builder, in this case 2017, would have been before the date eligibility for these rebates.
Yeah. Now, what if an agreement of purchase and sale prior to this becoming law, but after March 2025, would you need to claim this directly yourself from the CRA, or do you require anything from the builder for this?
That's a great question. I'm dealing with that right now. We've got an assignment listing, exact same scenario as that. It was purchased before these rebates were announced, but it just so happened it fell into that GST rebate. I don't know, Evan, I know I asked you before. I don't know if there's any update to that, or if right now it's a little bit unknown.
Perhaps a little bit unknown, but for any deals where you are eligible, which have closed, again, for the first-time home buyer HST rebate, relevant date again is March 20th, 2025. So for any deal signed after that date, which has now closed already, I'm sure it's happened. If you didn't get the rebate on closing, which you wouldn't have, you can now apply to CRA, and you have 2 years to do that from the closing date. So if that applies to you, I encourage you to apply right away.
Here you go.
Amazing. And another question would be, what would the HST rebate amount to if we purchased a $1 million condo through an assignment sale in 2026?
So this is similar. Again, the key thing here is going to be the original contract date. Even if you bought the assignment this year, if the contract was originally purchased in the past, so in this case, further back than March 2025, then none of the rebates would be applicable. Except for the existing one, of course, of the $24,000.
For the Ontario 13% rebate, would they match it for the first-time homebuyers portion, similar to the federal legislation where it backdated to March 20 of 2025?
So if I'm understanding the question, the first-time homebuyer rebate right now that is passed is just federal portion 5%. Mm-hmm. Obviously, HST is greater than that. It's 13%. Ontario proposed a similar rebate, but they have not yet passed it. If it does get passed and if it is retroactive to March 20th, then it would apply, but it all depends on whether Ontario passes the law or not.
Mm-hmm. Amazing.
Okay. We have a few more.
Another question from John is this webinar recorded? Yes, John, it's recorded. I'll put a link to our webinars and events page on our website. Any webinar or event that we do is all recorded, and we all post it there afterwards. So you're more than welcome to check it out after. Another question is, if I'm constructing my new home, will it apply? I think we answered this before, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, so it would.
Cool. And one other question here would be, someone first-time home buyer looking to buy a newly built condo worth $600K. What rebate would one qualify? Can you give breakdown of the dollar value?
I actually think we have this example. If we want to go back,
I think we do. Yeah. Let me see if we can look at it.
There you go.
And I think we use 600,000. Perfect.
Yes.
Easy math. So just to break down the explanation, with a purchase price of 600,000, assuming you meet all the eligibility requirements, what rebates would you qualify for? There's the 5% first-time homebuyer HST rebate. 5% of 600,000 is 30,000. And then separately, you also are eligible for the existing new housing rebate, which is provincial, up to 24,000. So in total, between the two, it's 54,000. Now, the only nuance to this is that 24,000 rebate historically has always been assigned to the builder. So depending on the contract terms, that would still be the case. You may not get the 24 in hand because it's been factored into the price. You may only get the 30. Again, I just want to emphasize it's how the contract is drafted, and you need to be careful to make sure who's entitled to what and how it's been factored into the price.
And this example here does not take into effect the new proposed HST enhanced rebate, which is up to that 130. Assuming that goes through, then that is something that instead of 24,000, which is a portion of the 13%, it would be the full 13% that would get further rebated here.
Hope that answers the question. And last question, it seems like if anybody has any other questions, feel free to drop it in the chat. Last question from John is, where can we find these condos from the builder? Are they on the MLS? No, they won't be, but you're more than welcome to reach out to us. We've got a list of all of them. Just reach our website, thezadigan.com, or call us in at 1-833-ZADIGAN. And one of our team members more than happy to help you. More than happy to help you out. Is there anything else in here? It seems like we're all good to go. I guess going once, going twice. If anybody has any questions, feel free to drop it in here, or feel free to give us a shout and we can walk you through it. Cool.
Okay. I think
seems like we're all good to go. All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining on. Thanks, Evan, for the time. And hope you guys have a great long weekend, and hope you guys learned something new today.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Enjoy the weather. Go outside if you
care.
haven't.
Yeah, literally. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye.